August the 14th, 2024, and today I want to talk about something that one of the subscribers asked me to discuss today, and that is blacking out. And that's something that I used to do every single day. Unfortunately, I have a lot of experience of blacking out, and I know not everybody here has experience with that. Some people, blacked out every once in a while, or, just on the weekends or whatever, if they really indulged. But I blacked out every single day. And when I say that, I'm not kidding. It got to the point every single night that I had absolutely no recollection or memory of what had happened the night before. There was always a point leading up that I did have memory, but, once I got to a certain point, I don't remember anything, or I wouldn't remember anything. And what point that was, I don't know. It was just the point where I got that intoxicated, where I guess the part of my brain shut off. I think it's the amygdala or something like that shuts down whenever we black out. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I probably could have looked into it before I did today's video. I actually had another idea for today's video, and I was actually going to talk about pancreatitis again today. That's another topic that I have, unfortunately, a lot of experience with, and I think I'm going to discuss that tomorrow. But one of the subscribers yesterday in the comments for yesterday's video asked me to talk about, it's Jersey Girl. She had asked me to talk about, blacking out. And I told her that I would talk about it today. So I'll probably talk about pancreatitis tomorrow and the signs and the symptoms of that, because like I said, that's another thing that I have a lot of experience with. And pancreatitis is one of those things that is probably one of the most horrible parts of AUD, is ending up with that, right behind ascites. I've said it 1,000 times on here, but I think ascites is by far the worst part. But pancreatitis is right behind it. but I'll talk about that tomorrow. But back to blacking out, it was something that I used to go through every single day. And I'm really being serious. I used to black out every night. There were so many days that I just had, no recollection of what had happened. And it wouldn't just be at night either. I would black out during the daytime. There were often a lot of days that I would start drinking in the morning, and then, leading into later on in the day, I would black out during the daylight hours. If I had started drinking at 7 o'clock in the morning and, I got that drunk, 12 o'clock, I was blacked out. I would have no memory of anything. And I've talked about this, but a lot of times I would start drinking early in the morning, and this really would happen on my days off when this would happen, or on vacation. But I would start drinking super early in the morning. I would be intoxicated by 11, 12 o'clock. I would fall asleep the rest of the day, and then wake back up again at night and start doing it all over again. And when I was off or on vacation, that was every single day. But on a normal day-to-day basis, I would go to work. I would get up in the morning, make myself a drink, 2 or 3, go to work. And I've talked about this, but I would have drinks throughout the day. I would have to leave to go get something from the grocery store, run to the bank, or whatever it is, or I'd sneak into the freezer, the walk-in cooler, or I'd go up to my office. There were tons of places that I could sneak off to have drinks, and I did it all the time. I just walk out to my car, sit in my car for a minute and have a drink. And no one ever bothered me, so, it's just, I did whatever I wanted to do. But, back to, working all day, and I would get off, whatever time. It just depended on the day. I didn't have a set time that I would leave every day, because I was a chef. So it just depended on dinner service for that night, if we were really busy, or if we had a party or two. There were some nights where we would have, 5, 6 parties going on, plus a la carte, which is, a la carte is basically just people ordering off the menu. So I'd have regular a la carte service going on with the fine dining where people are ordering. And there were times where I'd have a full house. So I'm talking, 200 plus people eating a la carte, which everybody had to make reservations, which did help us out to a certain extent. But sometimes, you get all your reservations and they never did a good job. That was one of the problems at the place that I worked at. It was a fine dining establishment, and they just did a horrible job at booking reservations. If somebody said, I want a reservation at 7, and 10 other groups called and said, I want a reservation at 7, they would just book it. There was never any thought process behind it. It's one of the most irritating things for me. It's one of the reasons I actually left that job, because there just wasn't any thought process behind anything. It was just whatever anybody wanted to do. And the reason that you do reservations is so that you can break the tables down. Because when you're doing fine dining service, you have people eating 5, 6, 7 course dinners. And there's a lot of legwork involved in that. And, especially when you're dealing with those kinds of ingredients, it's all about timing, getting stuff up in the window at the proper time. And these people are paying high dollar, hundreds of dollars per person to come in and have dinner. And, you want their experience to be, A+. And, when you get, 100 people sat at 7 o'clock and they all order at the same time, it's just, you can't provide that type of service for those types of people. Everybody has demands. They want their food at a certain time. That they're going to start to get upset if they've been waiting 30 minutes on their appetizers or whatever. And it would just put us in a funnel, and it just never worked out, which is one of the reasons I used to get really stressed out. I would want to, do the best job that I could, but, I had limitations. First of all, my kitchen was very small, and I only had a limited amount of staff that I could have around, because we were such a small dining club. They just made things really difficult for me. And I would often get really irritated after one of those shifts, and I'd be in a really bad mood. And, I'd get off work, let's say on a regular night, I would get off 7, 8, 9 o'clock. It was usually 8, 9, or 10. I'll say on a regular night, I got off work at 9 o'clock. So I'd leave the place. As soon as we got down to the last, 1 or 2 tables that were left, I would go ahead and let my sous chef handle it from there, and I'd go ahead and go home. And the first thing I'd do is I'd get in my vehicle and I'd mix a drink, and I would have 1 or 2 mixed drinks on the way home, sometimes more. There were a lot of times that I would park in my driveway and mix drinks and just sit there and listen to music or talk on my phone to somebody, or I would go to the bar after work and have some drinks with people. But, I always had multiple liquor drinks after I got off, and I drank them very, very, very fast, which I would imagine is why I blacked out every single night. There might have been a night here and there that I didn't black out, just for reasons, maybe I wasn't feeling good that day, which happened a lot. There were a lot of days where I was not feeling well, because I was so hungover from the night before, but I would still drink. I always found that drinking just made me feel better. But I would, like I said, I'd get off, I'd mix a couple mixed drinks, I'd have those, and I would drink, let's say 2 pints of vodka in a matter of 30 minutes. And I'm not kidding. I really would drink that much liquor that fast. And I would get drunk super quick. And, there would be a certain amount of time that I would remember, maybe 30 minutes, an hour after I'd gotten home. But after that, everything turned off. I would have no recollection. There were so many mornings that I would wake up and my wife would not be speaking to me. And I already knew that I had done something to upset her the night before, but I wouldn't remember. I had no memory of it. And it would scare me because, I couldn't remember what I had done. I couldn't remember what I had said, and my wife was obviously angry. And I'd have to go to her and say, what did I do? And often she'd tell me, I don't want to talk about it right now. So the agony and the anxiety that I would have waiting all morning long to hear back from her later on in the day when she finally felt like telling me what had gone wrong the night before. It was excruciating dealing with that. You would think that that would have been enough for me to make me stop, but it wasn't. It just wasn't. I put myself through a lot of stress and anxiety because of my consumption. I really, really did. And like I said, you really would think that would have been enough to make me go, okay, this is enough. But it wasn't enough for me. My rock bottom was ending up in the hospital and throwing up blood and almost losing my life. That was my rock bottom. And it took that for me to stop. And it's not like I stopped on my own either. I had to go through a medical detox in the hospital, and the doctors told me, you drink one more time and you're gonna lose your life. And that's what it took for me to finally go, okay, if I drink again, I'm gonna die, so I better quit this. Which is crazy that it took that much for me to finally wise up. But like I said, there were so many mornings that I would wake up, I have no idea what had happened. And I always upset my wife the night before. I would say something wrong or do something stupid or break something or just start arguing with her for no reason. And there were a lot of nights too where I was really stressed out because I'd had like a wedding. And this is another thing too they used to do to me all the time. This, like I was talking about with them making reservations, like they would book a wedding and then we would say, okay, there is absolutely no a la carte going on if we have a wedding going on. Like, we're closing the whole building down. And my general manager was one of those guys that never said no. And if one of the members of the club called and said, we want to come in there for dinner tonight, he would say, okay, that's fine. And we would have, and then once you get one person who wants to have a reservation, well, now more people, they're gonna have to say yes, because they've said yes to one person, they're gonna have to say yes to more. And had been shut, like we would have it on our calendar that we were closed on these certain days for these weddings because they were so big. We would have it on the calendar for months. These people knew that we were closed, but it was one of those places, very pretentious. People just, it was whatever they wanted, they got. And it used to just irritate the crap out of me sometimes, because it's like, okay, I get you guys are members here and you pay a monthly membership, but we have a wedding. And the money that we make from those weddings goes right back into this club. So if we did a wedding that was a $100,000 wedding, all the profits went back into the club. So if they wanted to do, they needed to rebuild the roof, because we had a slate roof at the place that we worked at. It was, natural stone. And just to have that replaced was $250,000. If they needed to have the roof replaced, it got paid for by things like these weddings, like these events. And you had to be a member of that club too, or know somebody at the club to be able to have a wedding there. So it wasn't like these were just, strangers off the street that were having weddings. These were actual members of the club or family members that were having these weddings. And people would demand to have a dinner there, and then I'm trying to get this wedding for 500-600 people together, and then I've got to get ready for dinner service as well. And it just really put a wrench in the engine, when I'm trying to handle this other big execution, and then I've got to worry about doing a la carte service, and then you got to get all that stuff prepped up, get it all out and all that. I mean, it was just a mess, and I would get really stressed out. And I would be really angry, and I was always the type of person too that I just never said how I felt to anyone. I was always a pushover. I really was. Now where I'm at in life, not so much. I will say how I feel now. But for so many years, and it took me getting sober to finally, finally stand up for myself. Because for my whole life, I was that guy. I just never spoke up. I never said no. It was always yes, 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 yes. No matter what cost it put me in. No matter what position I put myself in, I always did what anybody asked of me. Even though I would be super upset about it, I just did it because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And, looking back now, I should have said no. There were so many times in my life I should have said no. I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing it. And I think that's a lot of the reason too. One of the big reasons that I drank the way that I did, because I was such a pushover, and I was angry at myself because I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't tell people how I felt. If somebody offended me, I wouldn't say anything to them. I just let stuff go a lot of the times, especially at work. Now in my outside life, I wouldn't say so much, but at work, yeah, I just never caused any problems at my job. And it might have been too because I used to drink at work and stuff like that. I just don't want to cause any problems. But I think for the most part, that's just the way that I was raised. Not to talk back, not to say anything, never speak up. Just put your head down and work. And that's what I did. And I would be really upset about it, especially if I'd put myself in a really stressful situation because I did not say no. And, I barely made it through it that night. And, I'd get off work and I would just start slamming drinks. And then, I'd wake up the next morning, like I said, and my wife would be angry. And, I was angry when I had already came home from work. And then the drinking just escalated things. And I don't even know what I had said to my wife, but I probably got an attitude with her because, that's one of the stupid things I used to do. I would, come home, get drunk, and I would take out my frustrations on my wife. I'm not proud of that at all. But, the one thing that I do here is I tell the truth, and I'm honest with you guys about my life. And the reason I do that is because I want others to know that they're not alone in the things that they've done in their lifestyles they were living in when they were drinking. Those are the kind of mean, immature, stupid things that I would do when I was a drunk. And like I said, I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is. And, now I can look back and realize the problems that I had. But, once again, I would get, completely sloshed and probably get into a fight with my wife that night, wake up the next morning, and I would not remember. And she would be upset. And then later on in the day, I would find out about what I had said to her the night before. And I really would not remember any of it. And, another thing, and I've talked about this before too, but there were a lot of nights that I went out after work. If we had a really big event, like I said, like if we had a Saturday night wedding or something like that, I often would take my guys out to the bar after we would get off work that night. And, I'd hang around with them. We'd clean everything up. And on those wedding nights, it would be a late night. It'd be midnight before we get off. And, there's some bars around here that stay open. They're like private clubs. I mean, basically, you pay like a $5 membership for a year-long membership to go in there. And they don't have to worry about closing at 2 a.m. And a lot of those people that go to those places were restaurant people. It was basically a bar for restaurant people to go hang out at. And everybody that went there were all F&B people or food and beverage. And I would go out with my guys and, we would get to drinking. And there were a lot of times that I would wake up in the morning and I would be in an odd place. I had no recollection of how I'd gotten there. I'd wake up on the floor in people's homes. I wouldn't be able to find my keys. I wouldn't be able to find my wallet, my phone. And I just remember that panic when I would wake up and I'm like looking around for all my stuff and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't find anything. And you wake up and you're already hungover, and you guys know what I'm talking about with that anxiety. Your heart's pounding out of your chest, and then you don't know where your stuff is. You have no idea what had happened the night before. The fear that would come over me, because I did not remember what had happened. And I'd wake up in, some person's home on their couch or on their floor, and, I'm trying to piece the night together, and I would have these little snippets, these little teeny tiny little memories of something, and it would often be these memories too that weren't the best ones. I'd have a memory of, yelling at the bartender or, just doing something ridiculous, arguing with somebody outside the bar and almost getting into a fight with them. Like I'd have these little brief, second memories, and I would sit there all morning long trying to piece it all together. And that was like the worst part of my day every day, was trying to take those individual little teeny memories that I had from the night before and trying to piece those together on the timeline so I could figure out what had happened. I'd start calling people, and a lot of times too in the morning when I wake, because I've always been an early waker. I've always gotten up 5, 6 o'clock in the morning my whole entire life. Even if I'd stayed out all night long, I still would wake up early in the morning. And, I'd wake up 6 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't have any memory. I'd still be half drunk when I'd wake up too. And, one of the first things I'd start doing is I'd get on my phone and start texting people. Or I'd start calling people because I wanted to know what had happened the night before. And nobody ever answered. And the anxiety that I would have to deal with sitting there all that morning trying to figure out what the heck had happened the night before. And I'm trying to call people and nobody's answering their phone. And when somebody would finally call me back, I'd always get this, man, do you remember what you did last night? And man, my heart would just drop. My stomach would drop down on my feet. And then I'd get really upset with them and be like, stop playing around with me and what happened last night. Like, I want to know. Go tell me what happened. And they'd, start. And it was always this thing, too. They knew they were getting to me, especially people that were really close, because they knew I had no recollection of what had happened. So they'd start this whole spiel of, man. you were sure acting crazy last night. And I'd be like, all right, man, just get to the point. What happened? And they, man, you almost got arrested, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, just the anxiety of sitting there listening to them drag this whole story out until I'd finally get a point and be like, okay, did I do anything stupid last night? Did I, like, get myself into trouble? Like, I would have to, like, finally get to that point and go, what did I do? Did I do anything stupid? Because I had no recollection. Talk about scary. Thinking back on those days, I just don't know what in the heck was wrong with me. I mean, I guess I do. I mean, I have AUD, and I couldn't stop. But that was one of the scariest parts of my drinking, was having no idea what had happened the night before. And people could have told me I did anything. And I had people tell me stuff like that before, too. You know, people would tell me that I did horrible things the night before, and then they'd go, gotcha. You know, talk about feeling sick. You know, the thing is, we get to drinking, we get drunk, and our morals go right out the window. I mean, they really do. You know, we're not thinking right. And, you know, not saying that I ever did anything that was, like, totally horrible or anything, but people would get me and say that I did. Now, did I almost get in fights with people and just do stupid things like that? Yeah, I did a lot. You know, driving, and, you know, I never crashed into anything or anything like that. I mean, for the most part, I didn't drive a lot when I was a drinker, but I did end up at a lot of people's houses with no recollection of how I got there. You know, I would check my checking account from the night before, or, you know, I'd had a bunch of cash in my wallet, and it'd be gone, every last penny. And I wouldn't remember what I'd spent it on. Or I'd gone to the bar the night before, and you know how you get drunk, and you're just, you know, you think that you're doing this great thing, and you're helping everybody out, and you're going to be everybody's friend. And you start buying people shots, and, you know, when you go to a bar, most of the time, you got to hand them your debit card when you walk in, or your ID, and they're going to hold on to that as your tab. And, you know, you start ordering shots for everybody, and you're the life of the party, and next thing you know, I would black out. I wouldn't remember anything else. I would remember going to the bar. I would remember walking in, ordering a couple doubles, and maybe ordering a round of shots for me and my guys. And that would be it. I wouldn't remember anything else. And then as I'm checking my bank account the next morning, I'm like, did I really spend $400 last night at the bar? And that feeling, that feeling of my stomach just dropping down to my feet, because I just realized that, you know, I just spent $400 the night before, and I could have done something with that. I could have taken my family on a trip to the beach for the weekend, or I could have bought that washing machine that we've been needing to get because the other one's on its last leg, or I could have bought that new dishwasher, or whatever it may be. You know, there were tons of things that I needed to get fixed around my house all the time, or my kids need braces or something. I could have used that as a down payment or whatever, and I had gone out the night before and blown $400, $500. And no recollection of any of it. Talk about just feeling really ridiculous, because I went out, spent all this money, and then, you know, I'm supposed to be having this great time, and I don't even remember any of it. None of it. I wouldn't remember anything. There are so many vacations that I went on that I don't remember hardly any of it at all. I mean, I have to say, and I'm not kidding with you guys right now, there's about a 10-year window of my life that I really don't remember much of at all. And that's like a quarter of my life. I'm almost 45 years old. And almost 1/4 of my entire life, I don't remember. That's how much I drank. 10 years gone. I have little remembrances of times that I was sober and things, but for the most part, guys, I promise you, I was completely wasted drunk for a full decade. It was really more like 12 years, but there is a decade that I do not remember anything. Hardly anything. It's all gone. All that time wasted. And not only did I waste all that time, not only did I mess my body up, but I wasted all that money, all that time lost with my kids and my family, my friends, things that I could have been doing that were productive, because I was so blackout drunk all the time. I wasted a quarter of my life, and I do not remember hardly any of it. So if you're looking for a reason not to drink today, Do you want to end up like me and have that much time that you can't remember hardly anything of? Think back to all those times, if you've ever blacked out, that you woke up that morning and you couldn't find your keys. You woke up on somebody's floor or somebody's couch and you don't even remember how you even ended up there. Or the time that you woke up and there's some stranger in your bed, or you wake up in some stranger's bed and you don't have any clothes on and you don't remember, Did something happen the night before? Did I catch something last night? Did I potentially get somebody pregnant last night? I mean, there are so many scenarios that could come from that. And our brain just shuts down and we don't remember anything. I mean, we're basically just walking zombies when we're blackout like that. Really. And there are so many things that could go wrong when we're in a blackout state of drunkenness. I mean, so many things could go wrong. And just for instance, just the amount of unprotected sex and things like that happen, unwanted pregnancies and STDs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that happens when we get blackout drunk. I mean, it really is. You bump into somebody at the bar, next thing you know, you guys are wasted, you end up back at each other's house and you have unprotected sex, and the next thing you know, somebody's pregnant that you did not want to end up getting pregnant, or you end up getting pregnant, or you end up getting an STD because of something that happened, or you end up crashing into somebody, hitting somebody. I mean, there are so many things that can go wrong when we're blackout drunk. The list goes on, and we would have no recollection of what had happened. I've told you guys a story about the girl that lives here in this town, or the woman that lives in this town, that had a really good job as a nurse, all this stuff, and one night she left the bar drunk and hit a guy on the side of the road and had no recollection of doing it. And the police showed up at her house the next morning because when she hit him on the side of the road, a piece of her bumper or something had broken off and ended up on the side of the road beside the body of the gentleman that had died. And they found that part of the car and they traced it back to her. And they went to her house and she didn't remember even doing it. She hit the guy and drove all the way home. Her life has been ruined because of that. I mean, she was an RN, had a great job, family, all that stuff. Ended up going to prison for a long time because of that. All because of one night being so intoxicated that she blacked out and didn't remember. And things might have been different if she had just pulled over on the side of the road and didn't just leave that man there. But she ended up getting all kinds of charges because of it. So once again, if you're looking for a reason, a reminder of why not to drink today, you do not want to go back to that blackout drunk. Don't remember what happened. You might have caused something really bad to happen the night before, a crime or anything. Because often when we get around with our friends too, and we're really intoxicated, we get around a group of people, we'll start egging each other on and doing dumb things. I can think back to all kinds of dumb things I did when I was drunk and hanging around with a bunch of guys. We just would start egging each other on, might break something as we're walking down walking through downtown or something. Somebody picks up a rock and just shatters a window or something, and everybody just thinks it's hilarious. And then everybody starts egging each other on, and then next thing you know, we've gone through downtown and broke a bunch of stuff, and could have ended up in jail because of it. I'm not saying that I did that. I'm just saying there's the kinds of things that happen, and you don't want to go back to that and then not remember what happened. Just think of all the money that we've wasted and have no recollection of that good time that we supposedly had. So you don't want to go back to blacking out again, or ever blacking out ever again. And I can tell you like this, if you go back, you relapse, and you spend quite some time since you've drank, your tolerance level has gone down. This is one of the most dangerous things about this disease, is that when we stop, our tolerance level drops way down. It doesn't take a lot of time, and our tolerance levels get back down, but we still have that memory of the amount of alcohol that we drank before we quit. And we will often go right back into that amount or more. And then we end up with alcohol poisoning, and we can lose our lives because of that. And if you haven't drank, it's been a year, 2 years, and you go out to, you have a beer or two, and the next thing you know, things just start going haywire. You could end up in the hospital potentially because, or die from that, because your tolerance levels drop so much. And we'll start thinking that we can still drink the way that we used to in the past, and we can't anymore. We go back to doing that, and you go out and have a couple shots, you're gonna be blackout drunk before you know it. And do you want to end up like that again? And then the shame and the guilt that's gonna come along with that the next day, especially with your loved ones as they look at you and you're laying there hungover. Or, that next morning when you get a phone call from one of your loved ones and they're just so upset with you because you did it again. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all, because relapse is part of this journey. But I'm just saying, just try your best to prevent it today. You don't want to go back to that. Just think back of all those times that you laid there hungover while somebody was just yelling at you and getting on your face and telling you how horrible of a human that you are and stuff. Because I know I dealt with that on a daily basis. I'd have to listen to my wife fuss at me all the time. And I would feel horrible about myself. And I would tell myself every day, today's the last day. I'm not doing this again. And I went right back into it all over again the next day. Or that day. I mean, there wasn't a day that I skipped unless I was really trying to quit. And I didn't ever get very far with it. But once again, guys, if you need a reason not to drink today, just do it for not blacking out. You don't want to go back to that. You really don't. That's not a life to live. It really isn't. That's a horrible way to live. I do not miss those days at all. So, with that said, guys, don't drink today. Stay sober. There's only a few more hours left in the day. You just got to make it to dinner time, have your dinner, and go to bed. And you're going to wake up and do it all over again tomorrow. And that's how we got to do it, one day at a time. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to talk about pancreatitis, so I hope you guys check that video out. I'm going to go kind of deep into it and talk about the signs, symptoms, what causes it, and all that kind of stuff, what it feels like. Because pancreatitis, like I said, it's one of the worst things that you can end up with. Pain-wise, oh my gosh. If there is a reason not to drink, it's because of pancreatitis. I promise you, it is one of the worst things you could ever end up with if you do. And I'm not joking. Just the back pain and stomach pain alone that comes along with it is horrible. But I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow. And, if you've ever had pancreatitis, I hope you watch tomorrow's video and chime in the comments and let me know if there's anything that I missed. Or certain things that you've experienced that I didn't speak about, because we're all not the same when we get pancreatitis. Each of us end up with different things. But anyway, until tomorrow, we'll talk about that then. And thank you for watching today, guys. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. I love y'all so much. Bye-bye.